Hello, grade 10. Today, our unit title is Literature. When I say the word literature, what comes to your mind? Books, poems, written texts, right? So, let's see what we're gonna take. Unit 9, Literature. We're gonna take the text Reading Through the Ages on your student's book, page 76 and 77. Okay, our title today is Reading Through the Ages. I want to ask you something. How many skills we have in English? We have four skills. We have reading, writing, listening, and speaking. Correct? Okay. From the title, you can know or you can guess that today we're going to talk about reading skill. Do you think that reading has changed over the centuries? Do you think that literature in the past looked like the same way we have it today? Let's see. Let's read paragraph number 1 so we can answer the questions. Reading is a skill that we have been practicing for at least 5,000 years. And in today's world of digital information, it is one that we need more than ever. Technological advances in communication mean we are dealing with more written material than ever before. But what we read has changed dramatically over the centuries. So you have to put in your mind that technological advances in communication gave us an opportunity to read more and more or to deal with the written material. And how everything changed? Let's see. Before we go to paragraph number 2, I wrote 2 expected questions for each paragraph, and I want you to look at the questions while I'm reading, try to find the answer. First, the question says, explain what is the Epic of Gilgamesh as one of the earliest known works of literature, what it was. Question number 2 says, why poets started soon experimenting with written language? Why? Let's see. Let's see the paragraph together. Okay. I want you to know that the main idea on this paragraph is talking about the two of earliest known works of literature. The first one is the Epic of Gilgamesh, which was written by Sumerians, southern Iraq, nearly 5,000 years ago. This work, and I just underlined the answer here. The work is an epic poem which deals with the themes of heroism, friendship, and the quest of the eternal life. And I want you to know that at that time, public poetry recitals were popular events at the time, and it is not surprising that the first written texts, such as the Epic of Gilgamesh, were versions of the poems that could be heard in squares and theaters. There is another work which is the Iliad and the Odyssey by Greek poet Homer are full of repeated phrases, okay, that had enabled the poets to memorize such long poems. So what happened? However, as the poets quickly discovered, because written words recorded everything, such devices become unnecessary for them. Why they have to record everything? So they soon started experimenting with written language, and this is the answer for the second question that I gave you in the previous slide. Okay, I want you now to look at the highlighted words. Here you have 5 highlighted words, and I gave you 2 extra, heroism and eternal. I wrote these 2 down for you to know the meaning of them. The first one, engrave. Engrave is a regular verb which means to cut words. Okay, so what do I mean by engrave? Cutting words or designs in wood, stones, metal, whatever. Epic. Epic, what is an epic? a long poem about a country's history or actions of great men and women. Okay, and now I'm answering vocabulary, so you can write them down on the second page. You see exercise for vocabularies, I'm answering them. Quest is a long search for something that is difficult to find. Rituals, a public performance of music or poetry, often by one person. One person take this thing and perform to the audience. Memorize, it is to learn something so that you can remember it exactly. Okay, I wrote heroism and eternal for you. Heroism, it means a great bravery, and eternal, it means lasting or existing forever without end. Okay, the expected questions for paragraph 3 are: first one, find out the forms of literature that we recognize today were developed by Greeks. What are these forms? And question number 2, what is the meaning of literary criticism? And I gave you the answer here. It is the act of describing the good and bad points of a play, film, book, and a work of art. Okay, if you are describing what are the good points, the bad points of a book that you read or a film that you watched, so we call this literary criticism. Now let's see paragraph number 3. Okay, this paragraph is talking about the forms of literature that we have today, that we recognize today, and the Greeks developed it. I underlined the most important thing in this paragraph, which is the answer, for the first question I gave you in the previous slide. Plato's writing made philosophy available to the reading public, and Aristotle wrote Poetics, which is a work of literary criticism that is still studied by screenwriters in Hollywood today. So, Greeks who produced the styles and the forms of literature. Romans only limited themselves to copying them. The expected questions for paragraph 4. I wrote 2 questions for you and try to answer them with me while we going to read the paragraph, okay? What was the effect of Bayt al-Hikmah or the House of Wisdom on Baghdad? Question number 2. How Arab scholars built on their knowledge? Let's see the paragraph so we can answer the questions. Paragraph number 4. This paragraph is talking about the fall of Rome, how Europe degenerated into the Dark Ages, a period of cultural stagnation, while the Islamic Empire flourished. I asked you a question like, what was the effect of House of Wisdom or Bayt al Hikmah? First of all, I want you to know that it was under the Caliph Harun al Rashid, okay? It was set up. The House of Wisdom, look, I underlined the answer for you. The House of Wisdom was kind of university and library that helped turn the empire's new capital, Baghdad, into the most important cultural center in the world. Okay? That was the effect of Bayt al-Hikmah on Baghdad. Number 2 is how Arab scholars built on their knowledge. They did many things. First thing, they had accumulated to start their own investigation and make their own discoveries. So, they collected, preserved, and translated all the Greek texts they could. And despite the destruction caused by wars and natural disasters, we still have many thanks to the House of Wisdom and other Arab centers of learning. Now, we had highlighted words in paragraph 4, so we're gonna see the definitions of these highlighted words. degenerated, become worse or lower in quality. Stagnation, the state of not making a progress. When something is not making a progress, we call it stagnation. Number three, flourished. We said that the Islamic empire flourished. It means developed in a successful way, accumulated, increased over a period of time, and preserved, kept something in its original state. The expected questions for paragraph 5 are: first one, why literature was mainly still in the hands of aristocracy and upper classes? Question number 2, which time was called the time of Renaissance? Now let's see paragraph number 5 together. This paragraph is talking about when the Islamic Golden Age faded and the culture in Europe underwent a revival. They call it, it was the time of Renaissance. There was a renewed interest in the works of the Greeks, and they developed a new form of writing such as the essay. Okay. Question number 2, I asked you why literature was still mainly in hands of aristocracy and upper classes. Why? Because they are the social groups that were literate and had time to read and write. After that, what happens? Poetry became a popular pastime for the wealthy. And then all of this was to dramatically change thanks to the invention of great importance, the printing press. Now, before we go to paragraph 6, we need to see the definitions of revival and literature. Revival is the act of becoming or making something strong or popular again. Literate, able to read and write. Those people who were literate, who had the ability to read and write. Now, before we read paragraph 6, we need to know the expected questions for this paragraph. First question I wrote for you is, what was the impact of presenting the printing press? Question number 2, how reading became an essential skill for everybody? Let's see. Paragraph number 6 is talking about the impact of presenting the printing press. What happened? I want you to know that printing press was presented to the world by John Gutenberg. Okay, it had an immediate impact. What was the impact? The cost of publishing books dropped dramatically and book prices therefore fell. So, what happened then? Literature was no longer available to a privileged few, and the fact that the more people had access to books also influenced what writers wrote about it. Collections of popular legends and folk tales were published, and texts written in prose started to appear in print. This was the beginning of a revolution that was to make reading an essential skill for everybody, not only for the aristocracy and upper classes. Let's see the definitions of the highlighted words in paragraph 6. Privileged, having an advantage or opportunity that most people do not have. Prose, writing that is not poetry. Anything you write that it is not poetry, we called it prose. Okay, now we finished reading the text, analyzing it, and we knew the definitions of the highlighted words in the text. Now we have exercise number 2. So please open your student's book on page 77. Exercise number 2 says, read the text again, then choose the best answer. Number 1, as a consequence of improvements in technology. Is it A, we can read 5,000 years old documents? Or B, we are reading more and more? C, Written communication has decreased. D. Reading skills have changed dramatically. It is B. Okay. Number 2. The first written poems. A. Reflected characteristics of spoken language. Were all written by Sumerians. Were all written on stone. Or D. Had to be memorized by the writer. It is A. Reflected characteristics of spoken language. Now, number 3. During the time of Roman Empire, the Romans, what did they do? 1. Invited in new forms of literature, limited the numbers of literature styles, spread Greek ideas on literature, or developed literature into the forms we know today. It is C. Spread the Greek ideas literature. Number 4. Arab centers of learning. What did they do? Conserved many examples of Greek literature. B. Employed Roman writers. C. Were built during the Roman Empire. D. Were opened all over the world. It is A. Now, number 5. During the Renaissance in Europe, okay, what happened? Most people could read and write. The upper classes wrote in Greek. Most literature was written about rich people, or literature was enjoyed by only few people. It is D. Now, number 6. The fall in book prices was caused by 1. A. Technological advances. B. Publication of books of legends and folk tales. C. Revolution. D. New writing styles. It was because A. Of course, technological advances, because we said the book prices fall down because of presenting the printing press, which is a technological advance. Now, we finished our lesson today. We finished the text. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope it was easy for you. If you need anything, please contact me, and have a nice day. Hello, grade 10. Today we're going to continue our unit 9. So please open your student book on page 78, vocabulary. Today we're gonna take the vocabularies. Okay, when we finish them, please open your workbook because you have a homework, page 69. On the previous lesson, we took the definitions of the highlighted words in the paragraph, right? So here you can find the answers for the first exercise using the highlighted words from the text. Now we're going to take the new vocabularies that we have on Extend on page 78. These vocabularies are written in the box, okay, but I wrote down the definitions for you to make it easier to understand. So the first vocabulary that we're gonna take today is bestseller. When I say bestseller for a book or bestseller film, what do I mean? It is a book or other product that sells in very large numbers. Second one is bookworm. What do I mean by bookworm? A bookworm is a person who enjoys reading a lot. So we call him a bookworm. Number 3, to browse. Survey goods for sale in a leisurely and casual way. Flick through. To look quickly through a book, a magazine, etc. You're not reading everything in details, but you just have a look about it, okay? Number 5, from cover to cover. When I say that this person read the book from cover, I mean that from the first page of the book all the way to the last page without skipping anything. Look up, to pick up something. To pore over, to read or study something very carefully. For example, I say he pored over the map for hours. Take out, to remove something or to bring it out. Now you know the meanings of the words, so you can complete the text with the correct form of the verb. Let's see the text. I love reading and I'm a real bookworm. I like browsing in bookshops, looking at novels and the best sellers. However, I do not buy many books. I usually take out books from library. At the library, I look up information in the encyclopedias to help me with my schoolwork. I know a lot of this material is on the internet, but there is nothing better than poring over a table full of open books. I also flick through magazines to find interesting articles or read travel guides to exotic destination from cover to cover. I can finish 1.5 hours. Okay, now let's learn the types of books. We have 6 types of books. The first one is the anthology book. What is an anthology book? Whatever you see, a poetry book, poems, it is called anthology book. Number 2, we have reference book, like Oxford Dictionary. If I told you to go and check up a meaning of a word, or an idiom or whatever, so you are referring to that book or you are referring to the dictionary. That's why it is called a reference book. Number 3, we have text book. If we looked at Aim High, our book, it is a text book. Action Back, a text book. Better English Now, a text book. So all of these books that are written to be taught to students in schools, we call it text book. What about novel? We know that a novel is fiction prose narrative of a book which representing characters, actions. Okay, so it is called a novel. But what about biography? Do you remember on the previous unit we took writing a biography, how to write a biography, and we said it is an account of someone's life written by someone else. Look here, like Ramses 2, so it is a kind of biographies. And the last one is travel guide. If I'm going to travel for London or Turkey and I want a small book to read about the most beautiful tourism places in that country, so I have to have a travel guide. So we called it a travel guide. Okay, now we're going to learn the parts of a book, vocabularies, and their definitions. Okay, so let's look at the first one. Bibliography. What is a bibliography? And I know that this is a new word for you. It is a list of the books the writer has referred to when writing their own books. Number 2, we have index. What is an index? It is an alphabetical list of all people and subjects that appear in a book. Acknowledgements, a short text where the writer thanks the collaborators, editors, and others who have helped them. What is a content page? So number 4 from the parts of a book is a content page. It is a list of the units or chapters in a book with the number of page begin on, and most of the times it is on the beginning of any book. Plop, a short description on the back cover of a book written by the publisher to make people buy it. We know that most of the times, if we saw a book on the back cover, you will see a small box with a short description from the publisher. Okay, it is a kind of advertising to himself. Glossary, a list of the words that are difficult to understand and an explanation of what they mean. Number 7, appendix, extra information about a person, date, event, or other data that appears at the end of the book. And the last thing we're gonna take this week is the footnote. A footnote is an information at the bottom of the page, okay, about something that is written on that page. By this, we finish what we have to take on this week. So please continue with us, read whatever we took, and memorize the new vocabulary that we have. And God bless you all. Hope you all being good. Thank you so much, Teacher Dua and Nawas.